Yes, we are live. Welcome, everyone. And this is Toni Weel calling in from beautiful and hot and humid Florida. Typical Florida, but love it anyway. We have with us Sara, of course, from Ohio, and my dear co-host. I couldn't do it without you, to be honest. I don't want to do it without you. And
Happy to be here.
yeah, we have with us again our guest, Seth, who always is a great researcher, goes in really deep and explains it very well. So he was the right person to have here when I came up with that. Okay, we need to call it, we need to talk about this. And the topic that I want to talk about is always last minute. It's like it just comes to me. It's like, okay, you need to talk about this. It can be triggered by, a post in one of the groups or my own struggles I'm going through, and that's where cravings, hunger, and food addiction, and actually emotional eating comes from. And we have Gail with us, and Gail is new to me. So, Gail, I don't know if you're here because you had some questions, and well, the questions come later. Of course, we're first going to talk about it. And I don't know if you've been here before, but can you or do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm. I don't know what you want. I've been following Dr. Morris's teachings for about a year now. I had a review in Iridology by Jessica. I have another one coming up. It's currently being scheduled. I'll just have to take the pictures of my eyes again. And Toni, you gave me the app that I wanted to use. Um, I struggle with the food mightily. um, my husband lives to eat, and I eat to live. And I no sooner get done telling him, I'm just juicing, and he starts in on my favorite things. Oh, look at this loaf of bread. Oh, look at this. And he is a sad eater. Oh gosh, he just eats pork almost every day. It's horrible. And the meat doesn't bother me, but the bread is my downfall. Um, so anyway, I need to learn how to curb this, and that's where I'm at. I have I have tumors that I need to deal with. Um, so anyway, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, when I started, I'm happy to have you here, and I hope we can answer some of your, if not all of your questions, in how to move forward. Let me bring up first a book that is Alan Carr's Easy Way to Quit Emotional Eating. And he has a few points, and I have to admit, I already have this book for a whole year laying right in front of me. I have not even looked into it. So, and I am an emotional eater. And that can be the happy thing. Oh, let's celebrate, or and then it is food. And no, you're not gonna. If you celebrate, you're not gonna cut up a papaya. You think about all kinds of other foods, which yeah, we have to overcome that kind of addiction. And he writes. And I always go to the back of the book to see what all the topics are. And he had a section there where he says, this is pretty much what you have to think about, but don't start reading here. Start at the beginning of the book, so you know what it is all about. But there we have the struggles with our cooked food cravings. We are like, okay, does are the cravings come from parasite? And I already told that in the chat. It's like I opened a can of worms. It's like it goes everywhere. It's from the cooked food cravings, which I often have. And it's not even because I'm hungry. It's just, want to eat and for no reason. So that's when I printed out a few things, and I have 6 pages here, so I'm not going to read it all. Um, I just looked at one and it's boredom, but I don't want to bore you with all this information yet. I was thinking I have to put this together in an ebook, do even more resource, explain it well, and I know for 100% sure that that has a lot to say about it, and about what is important. But I want to start talking about a few things. And there is a false hunger and there is a real hunger. And it's like there are some common types of false hunger, and it's like environment, dehydration, emotion, boredom, and sleepiness. And there are ways to fight them. I mean, the environment is like what you just mentioned, Gail, with your husband, kind of forcing you, or at least enticing you to eat the things that you don't want to eat, and he does. And I can see that as, of course, he wants you to do the same as he is doing. But what is important to him, for him, and for you to know is that your body is at a level because of the eating habits, because for all of us. And well, eating habits are in emotions, trauma, everything plays a role. But, the eating is something that even though we think we can actually control. And it is now learning how do we control it. And that is for me, it's like, I'm not going to say it's easy. It's like you have these oh, I don't even want to call it needs. I'm personally, I'm perfectly fine to just from one day to the other. Okay, I'm gonna do all fruit, and I do all fruit, and I'm not hungry. And if I hear the rumble of my stomach, I'm like, yeah, I could use a little, but not that important. And but then I get to well, about my my limit is about 3 weeks, and I think, oh my gosh, I feel so good. I can probably eat, this. I can probably do a cooked meal. Well, I'll know better. And once you are with that cooked meal, you start all over again. So we have to get to a point. And what I read about that, it's like, think about that cooked meal. How does it taste if you have it in your mouth, or make that cooked meal? And with every bite that you take, have it in your mouth and ask yourself, is it making me feel better? What is it doing for me? And you always have to answer like, I wished I had not done that because I don't feel good. You feel oftentimes, I think most of the time, you feel bloated, you feel dehydrated, and there you have that sneaky feeling of guilt that I shouldn't have to. And sometimes you do have, you don't have to, but you are in a situation where you feel like, or you're with friends or family, and or you go out eating for a celebration. We do have to get away from that, but heck, if that happens, then at least choose the best food that is out there for you, and then enjoy every bite. But don't repeat it. And before I keep rambling on, because I have a ton of information here, about know your hunger patterns, and what am I hungry for, tips to combat emotional eating, about if you feel hungry, interview your hunger first. And once you still struggle with emotional eating, and there is more to it, there is like habit, emotions, even nutritional deficiencies, and what a lot of people say, it's parasites. So, and a part is also one of the things is the dopamine. And we'll talk about that. I'll leave give it over to you now, Seth, because I'm sure you have a lot to share.
Okay. Good morning, good day to everyone. Yes, this subject. Oh, well, first, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we hear you fine. At least I
Okay.
do.
Okay. Yes, this subject is very near and dear to my heart and to my health journey that I've been on through all these years, and really, all my life in general, just because, we have such a strong connection to foods. And also it's ingrained in us because we have a generational connection to it. I can't uh, begin to tell you from all of my experience of helping people over the years, how many people have told me that they have such great challenges with trying to, follow these protocols of eating these foods, because so many of the foods that people like to eat in these different cultures all around the world that have been traditionally a part of the families for centuries, that it makes it hard for them to break that traditional bondage, and it's very hard when they have big families and they have big family get-togethers, and they're all different in different areas of the world. Like the Italians love their pasta and their breads, and and all those things that were popular in Europe as well, but they really like the pastas, and they like the olive oils and all those really, oily, congestive foods, and then the British, like their breads and their potatoes and their, again, foods that were old staples that goes back thousands of years, and then the different cultures are like that. Mexican people with the Spanish people in many different places, but mostly Spanish Mexican. They like their rice and their corn and their tortillas and all those things, and then the Asians, like their rice as well as those other types of foods. And so I've talked to so many people that have told me that it's just really hard, with dealing with those things that are just, generational, that we feel that connection to that substance we call food, that goes back, hundreds of years in our genetics of our family. So that's what we kind of feel this drawn connection to. But then on the other hand, we also feel a drawn connection to the most basic foods that are most beneficial to the human species too, which is your fruits and vegetables. And that's why we're so attracted to them, and that's why we really do feel good on them until it starts to really put a detox on us, and it starts to bring up, all of the stagnant pollution in the body, but also it starts to, show you how much of an imbalance you have in your microbiome or your bacteria systems in the body. And it also shows you what kind of emotional stagnation you have in the body and emotional challenges that you're going through, in your body. And it's all to the individual too, because we all have different types of baggage that we carry around. We all have different types of personalities. We all have different types of level of empathy that we all have. Some of us have more empathy than others, and some of us have less empathy than others, and different, psychological things, So really, if I could sum up this subject, I would say it's mostly due to the bacteria levels in the body, or the balance of the microbiome, because for the last several hundred years, we've been a society where we have been exposed to too much chemical sanitizing agents, like penicillin, antibiotics, steroids, birth control, antibacterial soaps, antibacterial hand sanitizers, all these different things that greatly, bleach, Lysol, all those things that greatly diminish the balance of our microbiome. And when you get that system out of balance, you're supposed to have, in a healthy balance system, you're supposed to have 80% at least of your beneficial bacteria. That's very important for your body, and only 20% of the cleaning type of bacteria. And you heard what I said, the cleaning type bacteria, which is what really candida and yeast is. But what happens is that when you take those sterilizing agents, it kills off the beneficial, microbes, as well as the not so beneficial ones, but are there still for a reason, but they're there in smaller amounts, or they're supposed to be. But when you disrupt that natural balance by taking these strong sterilizing agents, it's such a detriment to the microbiome. And please remember, for all those that don't know, we are actually more bacteria than we are human. There's over roughly 200 trillion bacterial residents that live all inside of our bodies. Most of them are in the intestines, and the lymphatic system as well, because that's where you have your immunity, is in the the microbiome, or in the lymphatic system, as well as the intestines. And so what happens is that when you disrupt that natural balance of the microbiome, you end up having way too much candida or yeast, because they grow back twice as fast as the beneficial bacteria does. And also, when you take an antibiotic and certain sterilizing agents like that, you're killing off some of the strands of bacteria that you have naturally in your body that you'll never get back. I've read a couple of books on the subject, and I really find the subject very fascinating, the study of our microbiome. And one of the doctors, the name of the book was called Missing Microbes by Martin J. Blassner. And he said that taking an antibiotic in a body that's not been exposed to an antibiotic before is like setting off an atomic bomb in a rainforest. He said you'll never get that pristine environment back that you had before that you were exposed to those antibiotics. Now, of course, that doesn't mean that we need to feel, hopeless. We can regain a lot of it by just really cleaning up the body, and the body's very resilient. So it will build back a lot of these colonies, that we need, to really be able to stay in balance. But I'm just giving an example that if you have a way to avoid antibiotics, and if you have a way to raise your kids without using antibiotics at all, then hey, that's a great thing that you're providing for yourself and for your children, and your whole family. And so what I was getting at is that you have a combination of a society that's lived on too much chemicals and sterilizing agents when we get sick, and they use antibiotics like they do a catch-all. Anytime you have any kind of colds or flus, they automatically give you the antibiotics, and they become overprescribed. That book also said, from that doctor who was the head of the Microbiome Institute at one time, he said 80% of the antibiotics are given to people for not necessary reason. He said, you should never take an antibiotic unless it's a life-threatening condition. He said, you should ask the doctor, and you should say, am I going to die if I don't take this antibiotic? And if they don't say yes, then you don't need to take it. And so what I'm getting at I'm trying to help people to see is that when we live a society where we eat the wrong type of foods, and we eat the type of foods that feed this candida and yeast and bacteria, and it creates an imbalance by so many of the different foods, like all of your animal products these days have antibiotics that were given to them in their foods. So we end up creating a dirty terrain in the body that's so congested and so polluted, and has so much problems, with being able to be balanced, with all of our systems, because of the level of pollution that we were even born into, because our mothers passed down their state of their lymphatic system, to their babies. And so where a lot of us are born with a dirty system, to a certain degree, right out the gate. So that means we really have to work hard to reestablish something that a lot of us never really had from a young age, because so many of us have had to take antibiotics from such a young age. So what you end up having is you end up having too much yeast, and have an imbalance of your microbiome and your bacteria levels, and then you have strong emotional challenges with your spirit and who you are. And then when you try to do something to help bring that down, the candida and the yeast, and you try to take parasite herbs and that help knock back the candida, they start to get irritable and frustrated, and start to make you massively crave those foods as a survival technique. So that's another reason why you're having those cravings, is because they know what you're doing. You're trying to not only eat the foods that they don't want you to eat, because they want you to eat the foods that feeds them, the foods that pollute your body, because the more of that pollution that they have, the more that they can thrive, and the more they can proliferate. They don't like fruits and vegetables. That's why you never hear us talk about people have cravings for of fruits and vegetables. Now, you can develop a craving for it after you get your microbiome to the cleanliness point where that's what they're preferring, because that's how the microbiome does. It adjusts to what you eat, but it takes a while for it to do that. I mean, it's not something that just can happen over just a couple of months, so you have to have extreme, and when I say extreme, I say that very lightly. You have to have extreme diligence, determination, patience, love, just all these things, bravery, all these things to be able to go through the process of transitioning and using herbs and just doing things to help you to get over that hump of having those major cravings in that moment. And then you have to really be disciplined to not give in to those cravings, because it can be a slippery slope, like Toni was talking about. And that's been my challenge so much of my life, even currently, is that, I can go for a while, like Toni was saying, but then if I even have just a simple cooked meal, like even just some sweet potato and some steamed veggies, and most people would say, well, Thad, what's the hurt in that? And I would say, well, it's because it's a slippery slope. Because when you eat something like that, it's your likelihood of craving it the next day is really way higher than it was if you had of not eating it, or had of eating something different. And also too, the potatoes is a starch again, and that really does create a candida explosion in the body, because it turns to yeast in the body. So see, that's also why people have a lot of bad gas when they eat starches and also grains and beans, because that's the reason why we have gas when we eat beans, is because they are a complex carbohydrate that only your bacteria can break it down. And so that's my little spiel starting off the conversation, is that I think it's a combination of the diet, your history, your past history, and the way you've interacted in life, your personality, your family history, how you interact with others, your partners that you live with, or you're married to, and also your emotional states, and also understanding if you've taken lots of sterilizing agents, or you've been exposed to them a lot, and you've had lots of signs of candida or yeast overgrowth, then it's going to take a lot of determination to get over that hump, and to be able to not give in to temptation. And you have to stand strong, and you have to understand that the more you don't give in to that temptation, that it will start to get easier, and you'll start to realize that it's worth it. And that's honestly what I can tell you. Now, is it going to be easy? No, not at all. But anything that's worth it is going to be challenging. So that's one reason why we always talk about in these communities, and talking about these subjects, that detox is not for the faint of heart. It's a very challenging thing, because it's a transformational process. There's nothing easy about it, because if it was easy, there'd be so many more people doing it, and it would just, it wouldn't be as rewarding, honestly, if it was much easier too, because, anything in life, just like working out, just like doing anything that's, that really you have to work hard to achieve it, you have to go through some moments where you're asking yourself, why am I doing this? But the more you invest in something that's really going to pay off later, especially something that's one of your greatest wealths you're ever going to have, the only thing more valuable than your health is how you spend your time on this world, because that's such a limited resource, so that means your health is very important, because that allows you to have more time. It allows you to have a better quality of time that you have living here. So see, that's why both of those go hand in hand, in my opinion. So that's kind of my spiel coming out the gate, and I hope that was beneficial. And you can tell I have a lot of passion around the subject, because like I said, I've always struggled with not giving in and eating the real junky foods, especially during emotional challenges. And I think this is a very appropriate subject this day and age, because I know a lot of you guys are feeling the heaviness of this spiritual warfare we have going on in the world, with the forces of good and evil, the forces of God and the devils and the demons, and all this crazy chaotic energy that's going on in the world. And you can't even hardly listen to news or any of that kind of stuff anymore these days without feeling just, anxiety and stress and worry about things, and all we can do is just keep a faith and hope that, things will improve. And if they don't, then, we'll see what happens, regardless of what you believe in, So I'll leave it at that, and then I'll pass it back back to you guys.
Yeah, I want to. Oh, go ahead, Toni.
No, your turn.
Okay. I was just gonna say, I mean, that kind of goes hand in hand with everything. I mean, how easy is it to just lay in bed all day and not get up, even though you have to get up and you have to do certain things, whether it be take care of your children or take care of your animals or even just go to work. I mean, it's so much easier just to give in all the time and not do what we all know is even just right. It's always easier to look the other way or just do the other thing. So all the things that make us a better, stronger person in life always seem like they're hard to do. But at the end, the rewards are so much greater. I mean, when you like look out and you see your grass that is like super tall or something, you go out and you mow it and you weed eat and you run, you sweep and you do everything. And then you get to sit there and look at that looks beautiful now. Or, I mean, that's just an example. I mean, I know there's all kinds of things out there, like we probably shouldn't mow our grass and stuff like that, but it's just like an example of it was hard work and it was probably hot, but at the end, it looks great. Or say your garden is full of weeds and you go out and you take care of your beautiful garden. The effort that you put in is always hard while you're doing it, but the rewards are great. So everything in life that leads to great rewards is hard. And that's why there's so many people on the carnivore diet or the Atkins diet or all that other stuff. Those diets are easy. I mean, you know, just eating everything that suppresses all your feelings and keeps everything down. Of course, that's easy. You see results immediately and all this other stuff, but they're not the results that are going to benefit you in the end. You know, your fruits will bring up stuff that has been suppressed. You will go through an emotional detox. You will go through all kinds of different detox. But the fruit is the way that our body is meant to be. And it's meant to bring all those to the surface so that they can leave your body and you can be free of all of that stuff. So at the end of it all, anything that is worth anything is not easy most of the time. So it's all a struggle. It's all a journey. And it's just, are you ready for that journey? But it will be hard. And the other thing I wanted to say is that most of us live with people who still eat meat or still bake bread and cookies and make breakfast in the morning and stuff like that. And that is hard when you're there and you're trying to go through this detox and you're like, I'll just give into it because there's many levels of the detox there. Like it smells good or everybody else is doing it, or you have emotions that are coming up that are starting to surface that you want to suppress back down. I can remember very vividly that I would be very stressed out from my job and I would come home and I would sit down, I would eat pizza and I would watch TV. And it would be like this, oh, okay. It would like, because it helped suppress everything for me. And it would make me sleepy and it would make me tired, but it would, quote, take away everything I had for that day. But that pizza was not good for me. It was not helping me in any way, shape, or form. It was just a suppressant. So yes, food and cravings, they play so much of a role in our lives. And I promise you, once you get over that hump, yeah, I mean, the bread will always smell good when it's cooking or baking, but the craving won't be there. And you'll realize that when you take a bite of that bread, your first bite might be good, but your second bite, it's doughy. Your third bite, it's like, oh, this isn't even good. There's a lot of psychological eating there too. So, I mean, just dive into it headstrong and, you know, just keep doing it. And if your husband is saying like, oh, look at this smell, just be like, that does smell wonderful. And, you know, this is great, but I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to do this and you're welcome to enjoy it too. But, you know, just lead by example. I mean, we've had other people on here too. And one of them's in the chat as well. You just start making things and people will start to follow. And if they don't follow, that's their journey. You know, they have to be on their journey. This is your journey. Not saying ever be mean or don't, you know, discipline them or however you want to look at it. Let them be on their journey. But you start leading by example. You start showing your light, letting them see your light. And they may just start following along with you. You never know.
I
Yeah,
think that
that's
is, sorry, Todd, go ahead.
Oh, well, that's okay, Tony. If you know, I was going to reply back to something that she was saying, but if you had something, you go ahead.
No, go
You
ahead.
take turn. Okay, okay. I'll try to keep it short so that you can have a chance to talk too. Because we definitely don't want to dominate the conversation here. It's just I guess this is a passionate topic, so we can have a lot to say about it. And one thing that I was going to mention with what Sarah was talking about that was very true is that think about this for a second. Go on this journey of thought with me for a minute while I bring up this food for thought, as they say. Is that think about how much of humans' existence has been to do activities that suppress the rate of vibration of our spirit inside of our human body. Okay, what I mean by that is think about how many things we do that distract us from the reality of our lives and distract us from being aware that we are a spirit having a human experience. And for example, like look at movies, look at television programs, look at the foods, look at the drugs, and talking about the keto and the paleo, that's the king of suppression diets, and so that's why that people love it and they fight for it and they justify it and they make all these different reasons because truly it's helping them to not take accountability for how they're taking care of their spiritual, mental, emotional states of being, which are way more important than your physical. But see, some people in this world have such deep shame and guilt and regret and embarrassment that they can't face that side of themselves. So they will do everything to justify from having to go down that road. And it's also a lot of it's from trauma and abuse and all these different things. But that's why we love to make excuses. We love to do things that will keep us from being able to address that true part of who we are. And I just seen a post from someone that was very timely for our conversation. They said that our day and age today that we live in, there's so much instant gratification with all of the social media now, with all these reels on all of our platforms, our YouTube, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and it creates what's called instant gratification. It makes it where you have this dopamine addiction where you're just scrolling constantly. And trust me, I've had my fair share of it as well because there's a lot of amazing, great information that's on those platforms too. There really are, and I can't lie at all and say that I don't enjoy TikTok very thoroughly because it has such a great source of information that is not censored. And in this day and age, that's nice to have something like that. But at the same time, though, what it does that the article was saying that was very powerful is it says it's very detrimental to the kids because it does not allow them to get bored. Okay, that was very powerful what I just said, because think about how much a society they can't stand to get bored. Okay, but what happens when you get bored? What happens when the kids used to get bored before there was all this social media technology? They would start to get imaginative. They would start to get creative. They would start to find all these like little games that they could play just from their creation, just from playing outdoors and doing the much better entertainment than a lot of these things that we do today, because it's they got to know themselves better. They got to sit with their thoughts. They got to be more comfortable being with themselves, because if you don't have a good relationship with yourself, then you're having a major problem as a spirit on this planet, because you're going to spend more time by yourself than anyone else on this planet and any other experience you're going to have, and see, that's the problem, is a lot of emotionally unstable and mentally ill people can't stand to be by themselves, because they fear that aloneness. They don't like the fact that they have to face who they truly are, and I think that's what it comes down to when you do these. Like, I've heard so many people say that I could only go for 30 days or I could only go for 3 months on all fruit. It got to be too challenging because I've become too sensitive. I was too sensitive to smells. I was too sensitive to noise. noises. I was too sensitive to people's emotions. I was too sensitive to traumas and dramas, and too sensitive to violence and bad images on television. Just you become sensitive to a lot of things. And here was the point that was the really mic drop for me, is that I think what it boils down to is that humanity has been numbed or desensitized or suppressed for so long that it doesn't even understand what it's like to be a higher vibrational spiritual being that is thriving in your own spiritual awareness, your own mental stability, your own emotional stability, your own self-love, your love for God and your creator and all that, if you choose to believe in that. All of these things that are so much more important than just our physical needs, because we are a spirit having a human experience. So what happens is you take someone that was asleep, that was living in the standard American lifestyle way, and they've been eating suppressive foods all their life, and then you start giving them these high vibrational foods, then it's like trying to teach a kid that's never rode a bicycle what it's like to ride a bicycle. You can imagine their body is over there going, hey, what's going on? I've never experienced this before. This is very strange, very crazy, very overwhelming. So see, I think what it is a lot of these things that we talk about, they're so above and beyond what normal people do. And so it makes it where it literally makes people feel like they're losing their identity. And it is because they are losing their identity, because the identity they always created from such a young age was not really who they really were to begin with. And so it's really just a self-exploratory adventure that you're trying to rediscover yourself, and you're trying to really rediscover how it is to really live as humans are really supposed to live. And so see, that's where we're really getting down to the nitty-gritty of the conversation. And that's really what makes me feel overwhelmed on a daily basis, is because it really honestly hurts my heart to see the world in the state that it is. Because I just wish that we could all just get along and just help each other and just see the good in the world. But it's just, that's not the way that it works on this planet. Even as you can see it on Dr. Morse's face all the time too. And he says this is a warring planet. But at the same time, though, that is serving a purpose, that sometimes that's what it takes to get humanity to wake up, to realize that we got to make a great change. So that's the little rant that I wanted to add in there, because that was a huge one for me to accept, is the fact that, no wonder it's hard for all of us to understand this. No wonder it's hard for all of us to stand up and try to live in this world and be on these different, higher vibrational lifestyles than everyone around us. And we feel like we're such an oddity, or someone that's, standing outside of the normality, and that's been really hard for me living here in the South. I'm in Central Alabama, in the land of, some of the most unhealthiest people, because we have the highest obesity rates, and, our love of Southern foods and how rich and, unhealthy they are. And we're in the fried food belt, as they say, that goes from the Carolinas all the way to Texas, and so it can be quite challenging on many different levels, but it's something that, I've gotten used to over the years. And it's been even challenging trying to talk to these people at my parents' health food store, because you want to tell them the truth, but that so many of them, they can't take that. They can't handle the truth, and I've even tried to tell some people when they come up to me and they're asking me about things, I'm like, well, maybe you just need to go home and take care of yourself better and get better sleep and eat better foods. And they're like, Thad, that's not what I come here to see you for. I come here because I wanted a Band-Aid. I just want you to tell me a supplement, a pill, or something I can take, and then I can keep eating and living how I'm living, but I can take this thing and it'll help me feel better. I don't want to accept responsibility for my actions that I'm creating on a daily basis. I just want a Band-Aid. And see, that's what hurts my heart too, is because they don't realize, though, that, that's only going to lead to more problems in the future. And that's what Dr. Morse talked about. He said, what you suppress today will lead to your nightmare tomorrow. So it takes a lot of braveness from your spirit to be able to say, I am worth it. I am worth it, and I want to see where this road leads me to, and so, it's a lot to take on. It can be overwhelming to all of our bodies, as Dr. Morse says, because we're so much more than just this physical body. But I'll pass it back to you guys now. Yeah.
I had a lot of things I wanted to say, and of course I lost track of exactly what it was, but I had to laugh when you said when you are like an oddity, and I'm like, I like being an oddity. I like not being the norm and people wonder about things, but I understand what you're saying. It's like yeah.
I like it too.
We have a few rebels here.
Well, we're the turquoise fish swim in the opposite direction.
Yeah, well, I just hope it resonates with some people, and I hope at least it gives some people some food for thought, that helps them to later say, well, that was interesting what he said. I'm going to have to meditate on that or think about that deeper, and have what they call contemplation, and that's very important, because it can help you to, learn more about yourself and how you view world and view life, so. Yeah, y'all keep going. Toni, it's your turn. You talk some for a change.
Well, I was thinking about the cravings part, in that there's a lot of information out there that says, oh yeah, it comes from parasites. And then I was reading it, and then there were 21 symptoms to show that you're a parasite, and I was reading them all. And it was like mood disorders and anemia, skin ailments, recurring yeast infections, bleeding gums, headaches, anxiety, nervousness, teeth grinding, food allergies, sensitivities, loss of appetite, sexual dysfunction, chronic fatigue, unhealthy food cravings, persistent digestive problems, hungry all the time, sore, stiff joints, breathing problems, itching, especially around mouth, nose, and anus, and memory problems. And then I was thinking, well, that makes me think about a highly acidic body, and it makes me think about, a very dirty terrain. So in a way, yeah, they're right. Is it true that the parasites are causing it, but the parasites do well in a dirty terrain? So, it all goes together. It's all one thing. And but I wanted to read something from the book, if you guys don't mind, and it is When Things Go Wrong, and that is from the book. I put a link in the chat, Alan Carr's Easy Way to Quit Emotional Eating. And we all have our days when it does go wrong. That already talked about it. I talked about it. But when I was reading this, I was like, it is good to know that, there is a way that you can overcome it. And that is usually our problem. What you mentioned, that if you have a simple meal, in what you said with what was it, the steamed veggies and the steamed sweet potato, you start struggling. For me, and the first time I noticed it was actually when I made a soup. And it was a soup made, all green veggies, and it had onions and garlic in it. And it was absolutely delicious. I had one bowl and I wanted more. And that was crazy. But he writes, when things go wrong, of course there will be days when you find it hard to see the joy in life. That's perfectly normal. Everybody has days that when everything that can go wrong does go wrong. It has nothing to do with the fact that you've stopped eating junk food. In fact, when you stop eating junk food, you find that the bad days don't come around so frequently. And that is so, so very true. Once you start, you find that and I mean really start, not halfway start, and follow like three different directions to when you think that should make it work. It doesn't. That's just one direction. And for people, and this is from the book again, for people who quit with the willpower method, bad days can be the trigger that leads them back to emotional eating. Because they don't understand about the brainwashing, even long after the physical withdrawal has ended, they will interpret normal feelings of stress or irritability or even hunger as a need or desire to eat junk. And I have to say that with junk, we mean that is not just the pizzas and all the fried stuff. It is all the food that we know is not helping us, helping our body so that it can heal. They won't want to, though, because they have made a huge effort to quit, so they will feel deprived, and that will make the stress and irritability worse. Sooner or later, their willpower will give out, and they will treat themselves. They'll tell themselves it's just the once, but very soon they will find themselves hooked again. If their willpower doesn't give out, they will spend the rest of their lives enduring the agony of wondering when the sense of deprivation will end. You might well find that when you have bad days, the thoughts of eating junk food enters your mind. Don't worry about it and don't try to push it to one side either. Remember the elephants. You cannot tell your brain to not think about something. If you try to not think about eating junk food, you will get frustrated and miserable. But that doesn't mean you're putting yourself at risk. When you have no desire to eat junk food, you can think about it all you like. What's more, you can remind yourself of a marvelous truth, whereas someone who tries to quit with willpower will think, I must not eat junk, or I thought I had beaten this craving. You'll be thinking, great, I'm a happy, healthy eater, I'm free. My fourth instruction was never to doubt or question your decision to quit. This is essential. If you allow doubt to creep in, you will allow the big monster back in, and soon you're back in the trap. Prepare yourself for the bad days and have your mindset ready. Protect yourself against caught out by them. Be ready for feelings of stress, irritability, sadness, loneliness, disappointment, or apathy, and remind yourself that you are better equipped to handle them now than you were as an emotional eater. Eating junk would only make them worse. Be absolutely clear that there is no such thing as just the once. If the thought of having just one binge even enters your mind, replace it with the thought, yeah, I'm a happy, healthy eater. I've set myself free from that life of misery. The thought will pass very quickly, and your brain will accept that there is no future in thinking that way. The wonderful thing about overcoming emotional eating with Easy Way is not that it takes away the struggle, but that you don't have to wait for that little monster to die before you start enjoying life again. Freedom begins the moment you finish your final feast and make your vow. And it is time to get on with life. And what he says is like, you make yourself free from the emotional eating. And that's the whole book about. I mean, I'm just reading 2 pages or 1.5 pages from a book that is about for 250 pages, big letters. So it's an easy read. And I really, really recommend this highly to get through this, because and I wondered, we talk about the cravings, we talk about hunger, we talk about emotional eating, food addiction, and then I wonder, isn't it all the same thing? Doesn't this all come together as one? And yeah, it's that Sarah, do you have anything to add to what I just read?
I was just waiting to see if Dad had anything to say. No, I mean, it really is crazy. And I think it all does come crazy good way. And I think it all comes together, like everything we've been talking about. It just makes full circle, how everything is so interconnected that it is exactly what we talked about too earlier, Toni, that even though we're all made up exactly the same on the inside, we all have blood and lymph and, all that stuff. Each of us are in a different area of healing and detoxing and everything. So it truly all comes together as like a spiritual, a mental, a physical. It's all one. That's all I have to say on that.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. And what Toni was saying is that, yes, it is all connected, because everything is connected. Just like many different symptoms we have, many different weaknesses we have, they're all connected, because everything is holistic. Everything's connected in a divine way, so that's very true. And a trick that I was going to talk about before we end the or a tip or a trick that I was going to leave everyone with that are struggling with addictive substances that are stimulating to the body, that are the hardest to not have cravings for. All meats are addictive because they're stimulating, because they have the adrenaline and the hormones that the animal had in their bodies. Dairy products are very addictive, and they very much feed candida and yeast. Sugar, or especially refined sugars, are very addictive, because again, they also feed candida and yeast. There's many of these different foods that are very addictive, and so we have to be able to address that and be able to have grace and patience with ourselves as we're coming off those drugs. And so what I was going to give people as a tip is that one thing I was talking about with a group of people, that someone brought it to my attention. I can't take credit for this one. And then as soon as they brought it to my attention, I was like, well, that's a really a good way to look at it, is do a trick to change it in your mind how you view those substances. Don't view animal products as tasty. You look at them as rotting flesh. To change it in your mind how you view it. Don't look at potato chips or French fries as a good thing. Look at it as rancid oil, and what that's going to do to your body. Just change it in your mind how you view those substances. And then if you can, when you have a craving for that, then you can look at it the way that it really is and what it's going to do to your body. And that can sometimes help you to say, well, I don't really want to go there. And then also remind yourself of what kind of pain you're going to have later if you give in and eat that, And so, but at the same time, though, that's sometimes easier said than done. When you let the craving take over your mind bad enough, it's like you can't get it to go away, and that you feel like, then I just got to give in and just, have it, just to get it out of my system. And if you do choose to do that, then take it from me and try your best not to over consume it. Try to just, if you have that craving, try to just eat a small portion of it, or just a taste of it. Try to have some self-control, and I know that's easier said than done, and it's just like that old added thing that we all know. You open up a bag of potato chips and it's hard to not finish the whole bag, just because of that addictive nature of that food and how stimulating it is. And one last story I want to share with everyone that really, it shows how we all have this inner guidance that is trying to tell us. And I give credit to God and to the Holy Spirit in my beliefs, that I think that's him and the Holy Spirit talking to you, trying to give you the correct information. It's just we don't always listen to that. And what I was going to say is, one time I have a quick story to share that will be relative to this, is that when I went to Dr. Morse's level 2 class in 2018, before that, about a month before that, I'd gotten a hold of, the only time I ever got a hold of, some seeded Concord organic grapes from California. And I got them from an organic produce company, a bulk organic produce company. And I ordered like 5 cases of them. And so I was not only eating the grapes, but I was also drinking smoothies of them, because I would grind up the seeds as well as the skins and the grapes, and I would eat it all, because you get a lot of benefits from the seeds too of grapes, especially seeded grapes, because that the grape seed extract that they say, we even sell it a lot here at my parents' health food store. But that was kind of more challenging to eat. But I didn't have the right type of juicer at that time to be able to juice the grapes and get all the seed pulp and everything out, and it was clogging up my juicer. And so I didn't want to let those beautiful grapes go to waste. And so that's just the way that I was consuming them. But to say the least is that when I went to Dr. Morse's class, I went there on a really deep detox, and I had gotten really skinny, and you can see it in all my photographs. And so, to say the least, and I mean, it's to say the least, I was really sensitive. I was really vibrationally higher than normal, because I'd already been doing lots of work and detoxing and fasting like I was before I even went to that conference with all of us, and meeting all of these amazing people that are vibrating on higher levels. And then just to be around Dr. Morse for that whole week, that to make a long story short, at the very end of it, I remember it was so overwhelming, the amount of vibrational upheaval that I felt from that whole experience, that my inner self and my inner guidance, and I call it, the connection to God, is that it was saying, Thad, you need to go to the beach, you need to sit down on the sand, and you need to do some deep breathing exercises and process all this energy that you just experienced, and just let it all out. Just let it go and fully process it and fully take it in and fully be grateful, for that experience that you got to have. But instead of me doing that, all I could think of doing is I wanted to go to a health food store and I wanted to break my fast. And all I was craving was some avocado and some cucumber chips. And I know that's not the best combination, but that's what I wanted. I wanted some salsa, some avocado, and some cucumber chips. And I remember going to the park and eating it and breaking my fast. And I remember thinking, I was like, well, damn, this just didn't do it for me. I feel worse now than I did before, because now I don't feel as good in my stomach and my intestines after eating that. But at the same time, I went back to what I'd always done in the past, of eating something fatty, eating something that would suppress my emotions, hopefully, when really that didn't do it, and I felt even more frustrated because I felt like I didn't do what I really thought I needed to do, which was, go to the beach and just process my emotions and continue on, with what I was doing, And so I just wanted to share that story with everyone before we closed out today, because it just goes to show that the deeper you try to peel back the layers of stagnation, of pollution in your body and your life and your emotions and your experiences and all these things, be prepared for how challenging it will become, and be prepared for some of those old habits and those old patterns to come to the surface of the way that your spirit tried to handle those situations in the past. And my spirit always tried to handle it by using food. I did my fair share of a little bit of drugs, nothing very heavy, but I never did anything more than just my food. I'm talking about my food was always the number one drug, especially salty and fatty foods. And so that was, and we all know in the detox communities, fat suppresses the body's emotions. Fat suppresses the body's ability to let out toxic waste. And that's why your keto and paleo are so popular, is that they eat all that fat, and that instantly suppresses their emotions. It instantly stops the body from detoxing and dumping trash. So that's why they don't feel the higher states of electrical vibration or the higher states of awareness. And so that's why we have to be aware of these things, because the more awareness you have and you're aware that this is going on, then you can be able to say next time, you can be able to say, okay, well, how am I going to do this next time when this comes up different than I did it before? And that's how we learn and grow from these experiences. So I hope that was beneficial, a use of time to explain that, and I'll pass it back to you, Toni. Yeah.
Yeah, it was funny when you mentioned that what you ate when you did Dr. Morse's classes. When I did them, that was a year later. That was on the Thursday, I think. I did pretty much the same thing. Only for me, it was a pizza, and it was a vegan pizza with I think it was a cauliflower crust. And I had eaten them before, liked it, and enjoyed it way before I knew anything about Dr. Morse. That time, I didn't like it at all. And later on, you always wondered, why did I do that? And what you said, why didn't I go to the beach? I had a car, I could have gone there. And it paid me back with 3.5 days of severe kidney pain. So, and I really didn't like it at all. What Sarah mentioned earlier, and what I was talking about, if you want to eat a certain food, it's like keep it in your mouth. Be very mindful of what you have in your mouth. And the first bite is great. The second bite, not so much anymore. And then the third bite, it's like, why am I eating this? This is how you can actually overcome your addiction to certain foods, because and we do have the tendency to finish whatever is in our bowl of on our plate, and maybe that comes back from childhood, not wasting any food. I mean, my parents, it wasn't long after they came out of the Second World War, didn't have much to eat. It was in the Netherlands, and we had to finish our plate, and we still do that. And it's like, yeah, and with fruit, I eat until I'm satisfied. And if I have a bowl, I was gonna say, then if I cannot finish the bowl, I put it in the fridge. But that would not be fair. I have to be honest, because yesterday I had a huge papaya from the farmer's market, and I knew the gentleman who grew them, and I ate it all, and I got a bellyache. And that lasted the whole day. So, and I was already satisfied, halfway the bowl, and then it was a big bowl. And that is something mindfulness, But in the meantime, I was reading some stuff online, so that was not mindful eating. So be aware of that. If you eat, that was actually a good thing, that what we did as children, and even as an adult, eat at the table. Don't eat where TV is on, or you can watch something, or look on your phone. That's not working. Another one thing about food addiction, you already mentioned the avocados, and they are actually highly addictive. And I got to a point that I didn't even like them anymore. I had a really hard time for well, yeah, a few years to give them up. And once I did, no, they're not even the best tasting what is it, guacamole. It's like, no, I don't like them anymore. But there is something with cheese. I'm Dutch. I lived on cheese. I grew up on it. The Dutch cheeses are one of the best. There are other countries that have great cheeses. But I started to look into what actually is exactly in cheese and what makes it so addictive. And nowadays they are using different ways to make cheese. Now, you can have cheese from the grass-fed cows, and their milk would be better, blah, blah, blah. It's still cheese, it's still dairy, it still causes you extreme constipation, and I have experienced that. But there is something else to it. When you think, as some people, I'm a vegetarian, yeah, I do eat cheese. Actually, no, cheese is most of the times not vegetarian even, because they use rennet. And the rennet often comes from, I think it is the stomach linings of baby sheep, calves. And what you mentioned about, about eating meat, then look at your plate as if it is an rotting flesh that is sitting there and crawling things over it, flies on it, whatever. What about if you look at that beautiful little lamb, it's like there is these baby cows, I mean, they are the cutest ever. Keep that in mind. They kill them to have the rennet to make your cheeses, if you are a cheese eater. And I'm sure there are people who will listen here who still eat cheese. If there is no rennet, they have other options. Well, look into it, what is all in there. And you really want to know. I posted an article in the group Garden of Eden.social on Facebook. And I think I still have to put it also on my own website, gardenofeden.social, and about what is in it, because I know, we think, oh, that one pizza once in a while, but then think about what is all in that pizza. It's not only the grains and the fats and the oils, it's the tomato. It's the cooked tomato. It is that cheese. And even if you would have a vegan pizza like I did, was okay, it still has high fats and grains. So it's, yeah, we
Well,
have to get away from that.
well, Tony, one thing I wanted to mention about what you were talking about with the dairy is that I'll send you a video that I just literally seen earlier today before I headed over to my parents' health food store, is it was talking about that what most people don't know is that one of the very first things that they ever genetically modified back in the 90s was a genetically modified rennet that they use in most of the modern processes of cheese these days, and it's made from black mold. And so they said that it's like 80 to 90% of all the cheeses are made from it. And the guy on the video, he was talking about how he had had major backlash from all these different companies that had come after him because he made that video talking about it, because of the way the FDA regulations and all these different things, that they don't have to tell you that that's where it comes from and all this different stuff. So if someone's going to consume it, they need to consume it in an organic form so they can avoid that genetically modified rennet. But at the same time, I mean, we just have to understand too that so much of these foods that are highly manufactured these days, especially foods that are highly addictive, like cheese is that, and they know that, and they know they can get you addicted to it. They're doing it more for, they don't care if it's healthy or not for you, or care if it's any good for you at all. All they're looking at is the profits, and everything. So we just have to be careful these days with these mass produced items, because we don't really know sometimes what we're getting, especially when we go to some of these places and, they're not really caring about the quality of the food that they're making for you to consume, especially these restaurants and things like that, So yeah, we just have to be careful on so many different levels and different ways and stuff, So, and everyone has their own experiences and own part of their journey that they have to go through to learn these different things, So we just kind of give people grace and hope that they can find a way to navigate through the challenges of these things and find what will work for them, So I guess that's all I can think of at the moment. That I was going to reply about something else that you said too, and I can't think of it at this moment. So I'll let you guys continue for a minute, and then if I can think of it before we close out, I'll say it. But go ahead.
Oh, Tony, I did look up rennet, and it's a mixture obtained from the extraction of enzyme complexes from the fourth stomach of unweaned animals such as calf, lamb, and buffalo calves. So at the end, even if you think you are vegetarian, you are still taking animals have been killed, baby animals have been killed in order for you to have your cheese. Now, they are not killed specifically for this, but that's your veal and the baby lamb. I don't even know what baby lamb is called, but at the end of the day, it is still taking a life. And I even kind of view eggs that way too, even though they're unfertilized, the egg is still a possibility of life. So you're still taking a life when you are eating these kinds of foods, or can we even call them foods, items? And there is no humane way to kill something that doesn't want to die. That's the end of it. And it says thou shalt not kill, and it doesn't say specifically just people. Like, we shouldn't kill at all. And we should try to be virtuous in every way we can, because we are mankind and womankind, and that we're kind people. And by doing this, it does help to bring us down, further down onto our trust, where we have fallen deeper down and we need to climb back up. But saying all of that, everyone's on their own journey. All we can do is stand in our own truth, and everybody does need to have their own chance to have their own resurrection, to climb back up their trust to the crown on top of their head. And once you make it up there, it's your responsibility, or just another way to reach back down and help people come back up. And we may still just fall again, and that's okay, because God loves a trier. And all we can do is just try to be the best version of ourselves that we can every single day. And even if you make mistakes that day, learn from them and just try not to make them again. Or if you say something rude or do something mean, be like, oh, probably I shouldn't have done that. And then the next time you have the opportunity, do it differently. And that is the only way that you can just change. I mean, it's kind of trial and error here.
Yes, that's so true. And I was going to add to that by saying, and also try to give yourself a lot of a lot of love, in these moments, and try not to feel like, oh, well, I already failed now, so what's the point? I might as well just give in and do whatever, and then I'll just do it later. I'll put it off till later. I'll put it off till next month or next week or next month or whatever your excuse that you come up with. And you have to be able to notice that that's just excuses for just saying that, tomorrow's a
Mhm.
new day. There is no such thing as tomorrow, really, because tomorrow never comes. It's just the next today. And see, we have to understand that that's all we're ever promised, is just to have our momentary moments in the now, because God even said we're not promised tomorrow, because you're not promised anything, because life is so fleeting, but at the same time, we come here to grow and to learn and to experience these things. So if you're just playing safe and just you're refusing to grow in these very challenging moments, then you're just going to stay stagnant. You're not going to go anywhere with your self-expression of your soul having a human experience. And so it's just about being able to notice these things, and being able to give ourselves grace, and being able to be brave, and stand up and say, well, I'm just going to do my best to do the best I can in this life, regardless of where the road takes me, and just keep being aware of cause and effect. That's the good thing we can leave the conversation on, because think
Mhm.
about every choice and every action you make, that will result to an outcome. And you need to ask yourself, okay, if I do this, am I going to be okay with the outcome? Am I going to be okay with the way it's going to make me feel? Am I going to be okay with the fact that it may be hard to not want to eat this tomorrow if I give in and eat this? We need to be more aware on the choices we make, and the circumstances that we create from those choices. And that applies to so many things in life. Your cause and effect is one of the most powerful concepts and truths, universal truths, that you will ever be able to be faced with. And no one can ever dispute it. Because we can see it evident every day as we live. So just be aware of that. And Dr. Morse has talked about it so many times. So just be aware of it, and learn about these different substances, and learn about how they can affect you, and learn about how they can make you have different cravings in different ways, and how they can affect your emotions. And you were talking, the only thing that I wanted to comment about the animal products is that be aware that so many of the animal products these days, those animals were treated so poorly and so badly, that you're eating the fear that they experienced before they were slaughtered or taken
Mhm.
out. And so that's another thing that really affects people's emotions and feelings and stress and anxiety and all these things that are going on in lives, is we don't realize. And then same thing with, you go to some restaurants and the person's having a bad day, and they're taking out their anger on the food that they're preparing for you to eat. So you're eating part of the energy that individual was putting into your food when they were fixing your food. And we don't say these things to make you feel in fear of the what ifs. We say these things to bring to your awareness, to try as much as you can to grow your own food, try as much as you can to trust the sources you get your food from, try as much as you can to be aware of these things that are going on. And then also you can bless your food, and you can negate some of that bad energy that's on the food. And there's so many things that you can do that people don't realize, that it will help you to have a better experience with these things. So yeah, we'll leave it at that,
Mhm.
since we're a little bit over, and I'll pass it back to Toni and you, Sara.
Well, we did have one question in the chat, and that's from Dave. And Dave wants to know, Thad, where did you get your Concord grapes that have the seeds in them?
Oh, well, that was back in 2018, and honestly, I haven't seen them come around since then. I don't remember the name of the company that the grapes were from in California, but I got them from. I was buying my produce for a little while from one of the bulk produce distributors in the country, and they were called UNFI, and that's one of the big companies that supply organic produce to like your Whole Foods and a lot of these different companies. But I was going in with several other people, and we were buying bulk produce from them. And you have to buy, well, that was several years ago. You had to buy $500 to $700 at a time, and you bought cases of the produce at a time. And that was where I was getting it from, back then. And I found out about them through my parents' health food store, because when you order some of these, because you can also order from those companies supplements, vitamins, herbs, and all these other things too. But they have a whole nother department that handles the organic produce. And that's where we were getting a lot of and it was wonderful when you're juicing to get organic grapes and grapefruits and oranges and apples and all that stuff, and you can get it in a bulk price. It makes it bring the price down to almost conventional price, for organic produce. So if anyone is interested and they have the means to do that, just look up that company, UNFI, and just look up their organic produce department in that company. And they have distributors on the East Coast as well as the West Coast of the United States. So all you have to do is just look into that if you're interested, and if you have the means to spend that much. And you also have the extra refrigerators to be able to store the whole cases of produce, and you have some other family and co-ops and people that can go in with you. It does help save a lot of money, but you have to keep all that in mind. And yeah, there's Toni put the link. That's great, Toni. Yeah, because that way people can just click on the link. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Thad. And Toni, we have one more other question from Gail, who's on the call with us. It says, looking at the food chart, level 1 says you can have steamed potatoes and steamed veggies. Is this not correct?
Yeah, they changed it, and to make it easier for people to start, because when you change from a standard Western diet, and it's not Western, it's like, kind of a world diet, the standard diet, and you go into that level 1 on the new chart, because it's a 2024 chart for the detoxification levels, then you are already doing so much better. And see it as a transition. And if you would, want to stay on that level because you feel that it works for you, and you don't have any really important or yeah, what do you want to call it, health issues, then you can, but it's not helping you heal. I mean, I feel that when you do fruit the whole day and you take a cooked or even steamed meal in the evening, you probably tend to add some salt, you may add some oil, and then it's not helping you at all. You undo what you did during the day. And do remember that healing, it's not about adding certain foods, it's about what you leave out. So on that first level, you are already leaving out a lot of junk food. So definitely go from, the level 1 to the level 2, where I think that is the one where you leave out the other foods. But you are actually detoxing already, because of your leaving out all of the junk food. So no, it is correct, and I'm actually happy that they changed it that way, because it makes it now more like, yeah, I can do that, more accessible. As long as people see that, okay, I've done that now for a month, I want more. I want to see more improvement in what I'm doing, and then go to the level 2 and so on. Did that answer your question, Gail?
Yes, thank you.
And
I've been eating sweet potatoes and peas because it said, and carrots because it said it was okay. So I guess I need to jump to level 2 because I really need to get rid of these tumors.
Oh, then you definitely do, because with the peas, you get way too much proteins in. And I think we should add to that, like, if it's not really that stressing, do the level 1 for 3 months, and then the level 2 for 3 months, and then you go to the level 3 where it's all fruit. But if you have cancer or you have tumors, then you know that it is eminent that you get the proteins and the fats out of your diet. That's just it. And the proteins and the fats are in things you wouldn't expect it. Like, I see that peas are used a lot. I actually saw in what is it, tofu made out of peas, not soybeans. So then people think, okay, it's not soybeans, but it must be good. And what I was going to say, and I had that on my mind for quite a while, is if you have to read the label, it's not food.
That's
You know,
right.
Instead, it is just that simple. And we talk sometimes like there is more, somebody can be more excited about a pizza eating, but I have to say I am extremely excited about looking at my papayas trees outside. And, I have very little, space to grow anything, but that is where I do feel the excitement and see the fruit grow. And my mangoes have these tiny, tiny, tiny mangoes on it already. They're not even an inch big. They're so tiny. I actually have an avocado tree that I had for 7 years in a pot, and it never did anything. And this year it decided to grow, and it actually has avocados on it. So, and that is when I decided like I don't like them anymore. So we shall see.
Well, you'll probably like them better, the ones you grow yourself, because you can probably, harvest them at the peak time, and they'll probably be so good. But one other thing I thought of, Toni, that would be a great reference that we could maybe share with people. I have the PDF, and I think you have it too, and I think it's in our groups. But we ought to share with people and people that are interested the PDF that explains the mucusless diet foods, and what foods that are highly mucus causing, and what foods that are lean mucus causing, or middle ground mucus causing, and what foods that are low mucus causing, and then what foods that are no mucus causing at all. And so when we talk about the foods that are no mucus causing at all, it's just your fruits and your vegetables. Just fruits and vegetables. Well, minus avocado and minus durian, because of the higher fatty levels in those fruits. But the rest of them, they're mucus free. So that means if you're really wanting to help get your body cleaner, especially when you're fighting cravings and you're fighting, tumors and these things that you're challenged with, then the more mucus free causing foods you eat, the better it will help your body to get cleaner in the long run. So technically, it's better to eat steamed veggies or a vegetable soup than it is to eat potatoes, because the potatoes are going to create way more mucus and congestion and pollution in the body through digestion than the steamed veggies are, and so just keep that in mind, and check that out sometimes, the mucusless free recommendations of different foods, and that will help you. And you can also read Dr. Arnold Ehret's book called The Mucusless Diet Healing, and that will help you to understand too, because one thing that I wanted to mention is Dr. Sebi used to always say that mucus was the problem in our bodies that created disease, and that's not true. Mucus is only a problem once it becomes overly congested in the body, and our bodies become overwhelmed with it. Well, okay, why does the mucus get over congested in the body? Because mucus is an alkaline buffering agent that helps to buffer some of the acids that are creating the mucosa response. But also, so many of the foods we eat have mucus inside of them. Like all your dairy products have mucus inside of it, because that's a mammary gland secretion, same as mother's breast milk, but mother's breast milk has less mucus in it than a animal's, like dairy or cow or goat or something like that. But we have to understand though that what happens is the mucus, it starts to build up because it's trying to buffer the acids from hurting the tissues of the body, and that's why we create so much mucus when we consume things that are really acidic or that are really congesting to the body. So when we understand that, then we can understand the less mucus you accumulate, the easier it is for you to clean up the old mucus that has been there for decades or a really long time, because that's the way the body works. The body works on cleaning up the most recent trash deposited recently, and then it goes to the trash that was from yesterday, last week, last year, and so on and so on. And Arnold Ehret had an equation: V equals P minus 0. or minus O, and that means vitality equals power minus the obstructions. So as Toni was mentioning earlier, this lifestyle is based on eliminating the obstructions in our bodies to let the flow of energy flow better throughout the body. Because the more vibrations of energy you have flowing through the body, the better the body can function, the better the body can detox, the better your metabolism is, the better your nervous system is, the better your glandular system is, the better everything is. So that's what it really comes down to, is trying your best to stick to a diet that doesn't create more obstructions or more pollution or more trash in the body. And the cleaner and the longer you stay on that type of diet or type of eating patterns, then the more your body's going to be able to focus on the old trash and the old waste. So see, that's what makes it really challenging for some people, is that they will still, do some level of detox like we're talking about, but they'll still be eating a few things that will hold them back from being able to get to those deeper levels. And of course, everyone has to transition at a different rate, like we were talking about. And of course, a little bit of avocado is going to be better than eating oil in your salads. Like if you had to have some avocado for your salad or something like that, because oil is way more congesting to the body than that little bit of avocado would be. Because the avocado is the least benign, that's going to create obstructions, just like the durian too, especially if you don't overeat on it. But just keep these things in mind and just do the best you can, and don't feel overwhelmed from the information. Just take it as it is and just go from there. But I promise, Toni, that's all, and then we'll close it out if you want to.
Yeah, I want to add something to it, because
Okay.
when you brought this up, this is actually a file that I put online on the domain mucuslessfoods.com.
Yeah.
So when you go there, it's on my server. I reformatted it. It is put together. Well, it says the list is based on the mucusless diet healing system by Professor Arnold Ehret and compiled by Professor Spira. And I reformatted it. And what I did is that I put all the foods that are listed in green that can be used during a detox according to Dr. Morse's protocol. So those are all the foods that you can eat if you want to detox. I always urge, learn what is in here, print it out, have it with you if you are somewhere. Everything that is in green you can't eat while you're on that detox. Now, I numbered the things, like everything that is during transition or later on after the detox. Then choose from the numbers 1 to 7, if not raw, then preferably steamed, and limited from number 12 and number 19. And it shows, and the meats are in there, the cheeses, the candies, and it shows you exactly what is very mucus forming, what is very acidic, and in what is, starches. And there is pus mucus, acid forming foods, the blood of animals, chicken meat, mutton, ox tongue, etc. Everything is there. It shows you what exactly are the mucus forming foods, because sometimes, and I have people that's like, oh, well, what about this? Can I eat that then? And it's like, I always relate to this file, because this is the best thing that you can have as information as what to eat and what not to eat, what to absolutely stay away from. And to make it easy, I put all the ones that you can eat during a detox. The ripe fruit, mucusless, the dried fruit are mucusless, but eat them limited. It shows you the raw vegetables, and which are starchless and mucusless. And there's the acid binding, non-mucus forming or mucus-free foods like green leaf vegetables. Everything is there. I mean, this is like your little what is it, cheat chart where you can always look at to know what to eat and what to stay away from, or at least know, if you eat them, what it will do to your body. And I put the link in the chat.
Yeah, that's great, Tony. And I'm glad that you made it more easier for people because that way that people need to go with your PDF and your link that you have over even the one I have, because the one I have is still the old way, that people were sharing it in our groups years ago. That's not broken down like you have it in an easy to understand way. So that's great. And yes, that's why I just thought at the last minute when I thought about it that would be a great thing for us to mention, because it is important for us to be able to realize, what that food's going to do after we consume it through digestion. And that's one of the big things Dr. Morse has talked about all these years is, it's not so much what the food is like before we eat it, but what happens to it after we digest it, and it goes through our eliminative channels, So it's important for us to understand these things and learn these things because not only can it help, us in our lives, but it can help other people that we can share it with too. And that's the big way in this day and age that can help so many people is just get them the right information to help empower them to make the best choices for them. Yeah.
I want to add something, and that is because we were talking about cravings, and I was like that. It's like salt. Many people they have like, yes, but I have these cravings for salt. Usually it's not a great idea to find a replacement for salt, but this is a way to get away from the salt completely, and that is the use of green salt. And I'm putting the link in here. It's even if you would eat a tablespoon of this stuff, you don't have that salty feeling on your tongue, but it does help you with the cravings. It gives a slightly salty taste to your food if needed. And it is made from a seaweed, but you don't smell it at all. It's called green salt, and their website is trygreensalt.com. And you can also use celery salt, but I found that is, and you can make that yourself. I'm not a fan of celery. And there is actually a book about how toxic celery actually is, especially in the high amounts of juicing that people, including myself, have been doing and wreck their GI tract. So I would actually suggest to not use that, because to make celery salt, you need a lot of celery to get to that point. So you would still, and you can actually make it yourself. But I feel better, and I have no negative results from the green salt, although I'm not even using it anymore because I'm not eating the cooked food, and why would you put it on your fruit? So that's not necessary then. And another thing is dulse can be used. That has a little of the, ocean smell. I love it. I absolutely love that smell.
Yeah, Tony, I'm
But,
glad you brought all that up. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I apologize. I was just saying that's a great thing that you brought up, and I agree with it 100%. And that's what I recommend to people to do too if they're transitioning is to use the green salt. But yes, if I had to tell anybody, if they asked me, they said, "Thad, what has been your biggest addiction out of all the things you've ever tried that were addictive?" And I would say salt number one more than anything. And
yeah.
it's because mostly I have a weak adrenals, and I've had such weak adrenals my whole life that's another reason why I've craved that salt so much. And so that's why I've always loved salty, fatty foods more than I have, even sweet foods. But that really shows you how much I was addicted to it because I've always loved fruits and sweet things too. But yes, that's very important. And I can say honestly that the more that you go long enough without eating any salt at all, even when you can finally get to where you don't use the sea vegetables and the green salt at all, and you give yourself a break from any of that kind of sodium except what you get naturally from the fruits and vegetables in their raw form, then you get to a state where all your taste buds come alive at such a level that you never would experience in otherwise unless you go on a literal salt zero fast for at least 30 days. But I went one time, the longest I've ever been without salt was 6 months. And it was absolutely amazing because I remember the very first time I ate a cucumber from my garden, and I was blown away at how salty it was. And I was blown away at how much flavor it had. And I was like, wow, I was like, I've been missing out all these years from my taste buds being so numbed from the salt, and so, and then plus it's just contributing further to an adrenal gland weakness, and I want people to take away from this conversation, because we can have a whole nother discussion, and we have had many discussions talking about the salt, and I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. All I'm going to say is just try to get your sodium from natural sources, and that includes your living plants. Don't get it from the rocks of the earth, because that comes with a whole nother set of complications, and that's all I'm going to leave it at there, because that's a whole nother subject we've talked about many times, but trust me, you're much better off if you can try to strive for that. And if you do choose to use salt every now and then, just try to be very sparingly in the amount that you use. And in my honest opinion, I would get it from a deep mine source, not from a harvested salt from the ocean, which is very popular these days. Because what they're not telling you about that harvested salt from the ocean, like the Celtic salt and the Baja Gold and all those salts that are so popular, is what they're not telling you is they have microplastic contamination and heavy metal contamination in those type of salts, because they're coming from the ocean. But if you get a deep mine salt from like Utah, like real salt, or the Himalayan salts, but you have to be careful with the Himalayan salts because they come from Pakistan or sometimes China and places like that. And that's why I tell people, if you're going to consume salt, even in my parents' health food store here, get that one from Utah called Real Salt. And they're a family-owned business, and they're got really good quality stuff if you need to use it, or
Yeah,
you
but
can't get away from it.
we don't need to use it.
I agree. I
None of
agree.
it.
I'm just telling for people they're trying to transition. They're like, well,
Yeah,
Thad, I'm not ready to give it up. I'm still so addicted that I gotta have a type. Well, what would be the best type? And
yeah.
that's just my opinion.
It
But yeah,
still rocks.
I agree. It still rocks.
Okay, we can keep chatting until we hours away. We're not going to do that, so we end it here. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for being here, Gail and Sarah and everybody else and that. I mean, much love to you all. Until the next time. Bye bye.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.